Cool. Well, let's kick it off. Thank you all very much for coming. My name is Michael Burrows. I run the marketing department, the client marketing department here at Symphonic. You've probably seen me in similar webinars to this with other partners and some of the virtual music industry seminar stuff that we've done. So thank you all for joining this one. But with us today is a brand new partner that we're working with in a whole bunch of different ways, Found.ee. And from, I guess, my upper left to right, we've got Jason Hobbs, who's the founder, and Jason and I have kind of worked on and off in several positions I've had throughout the years here since he launched Found.ee, and it's just a really killer tool that has developed into a much more killer tool over the handful of years that they've been working. And then with us also is Rebecca Helgeson, who is the Director of Operations at Found.ee. And Taylor Winchester, who is the Director of Revenue at Found.ee. And the three of them are going to walk us through the new integration that we have with their tool in the Symphonic MS, how you can use it for some really best-in-class, DIY ad tools. And then there's also a whole bunch of other things inside the suite. I'm not sure what's available with the free account you get right off the bat and what you've got to expand to a full account with, but I'm sure they will get into that with us. And with that, I'll hand off. So thanks for coming, folks.
Well, thank you so much for having us. Yeah, we've definitely, we've worked together for a decade or so, it feels like. A long time, yeah. So I'm really excited about this integration. And probably good to start off with the walkthrough, beginning from Symphonic dashboard through creating an account, right?
Yeah, and just so that everybody that's here is clear on it, if you haven't seen it yet, this tool is now integrated into your account at Symphonic, similar to how the Hyped links are and the Sync Bodega links are right within your release line. So we're going to start there within the MS and talk about how you get to the tool and how you get yourself set up with the tool right from the Symphonic MS. So.
Killer. So let me share my screen. And I think today we're going to primarily focus on the advertising functionality within Found.ee. Found.ee is a full suite of marketing and MarTech and ad tech tools developed specifically for the music industry. It's been around for about a decade, used by about 6,000 music companies or so, and powering so far about 250,000 artists that use it on their own through some means or another. And so I'm just walking through a super streamlined flow from Symphonic dashboard. I go to market, click on growth, and that loads up our Found.ee page, just a quick page. You gotta make sure you're agreeing to the terms of service, and then click grow with Found.ee. And there we go. This is one of my
note. You can also get there from your releases catalog, right in line with each individual release. There's a set of icons on what you can add to each release. Underneath growth, the Found.ee click through is right there as well. So two different ways to get there.
Do you want me to try to go through that? I'm not sure if I've gone through that flow.
No, okay. I'm sure that they're familiar with that. So.
Much more, I'm sure. So this will actually create your account and connect it to your Symphonic account immediately. There's nothing else you have to do in terms of creating the account. In this case, we literally just established the connection. We've created the account, and now you can always find access to it again through your Symphonic account directly if you'd like. And so this is the dashboard. This is a sort of a testing dashboard. So you'll see a lot of data and access to other user accounts and stuff. And as I mentioned, there's a lot of tools in here, landing page creator, ad banner designer, email capturing mechanism, stuff like that. But the focus today, and our primary focus for the integration, is actually to build out very unique advertising campaigns within the system. So some of the biggest value propositions of Found.ee include the fact that you can actually build your banner ad directly inside of Found.ee. And you do that, an ad here, by going through the dashboard, clicking on design playable banners, and everything in here is actually editable. So you can change the text, the font, the background color, you can upload backgrounds and stuff like that. For those of you with the Canva skills and the Photoshop skills, that might not be all that interesting. It's not the most interesting thing to us either. The most interesting thing to us is that it's what we call an HTML5 ad. And so just show you really quickly, I'm just going to go grab a Spotify embed, and I'm just inside the web player. You can go to share either on a song or a playlist or an album. And I'm going to click on embed the album and then show the code, and voila, get out of there. So anything I want to edit here, of course. Hey, look here. Maybe not the best header. Rebecca and Taylor have some be more creative than I am with this. But let me just paste this in. So I mean, we're done. I can edit the rest of this, and might as well. Our new album, and let me just say, give it a good call to action, like stream. There we go. And excuse me, create. Oh, of course I failed to save the banner. Let me try that one more time. Give it a name. And voila. Okay, let me just log into a non-test account and try that again. Design banner ad. Here we go. So this is an actual account. That's not a test one. And here we go. There we go. And I'm going to change the size to 300 by 600. And there we go. From now on, I'll use the regular account and not one of our test accounts to make this a little easier. So let me just show you the value proposition of one of our Found.ee banner ads. So a Found.ee banner ad can be well designed, can have a background of any kind. It can be animated GIFs, that kind of thing. But in this case, what actually works the absolute best, and what is one of the most unique value propositions of Found.ee, is the HTML5 embeddable widget you can actually create. So in this case, I can literally put in a Spotify widget. In this case, it's a full album playlist. But in other cases, it can also be, well, actually, I think I have some created. It can even be like a YouTube video from YouTube. This is Taylor. I used your example because I'm going to show the ad campaign in here too. But yeah, you can make these fully interactive, basically. People can click through either to your YouTube or to your Spotify, or you can make, once you set up the ad campaign itself, the rest of the canvas, basically, it'll link out to whatever your destination URL actually is. As you can see on my examples, there we go. I'm actually logged into Spotify, so it's not a 30-second preview. It's the entirety of the song. In fact, it can be the entirety of the album in this case. And so these are fairly easy to create. They're, by the way, totally free to create. You can make as many of these as you want to. The types of widgets that we accept currently are Spotify, YouTube, Apple, SoundCloud, and maybe a couple others, but those are the primary widgets that people use Found.ee for. And then very simply, they take these campaigns and they set them up. They take these banner ads and they turn them into an advertising campaign. So in our case, we are on a programmatic network, essentially. Just means we have access to a heck of a lot of inventory, including really interesting inventory. So different than the Google AdWords of the world. You can run an audio campaign on iHeart or Spotify, of course. You can even run a newsletter banner. These are pretty simple. I'll just take you into it really quickly. But you basically are creating your banner directly inside of Found.ee, and then you can pick to run this ad campaign directly on, or rather not on, but in premium music newsletters. And so this is also what's referred to as programmatic, but the idea behind this is that the banner ads can actually show up inside of an actual email that music fans subscribe to. Everything from like access tickets to, I don't know, like Consequence of Sound, I believe, and a whole bunch of other really cool music newsletters that, people that you want to get in front of are actually subscribed to. And the really cool thing about those too is that you actually only pay for the impression. So you're not paying for it to go into a newsletter. You're only paying when the impression shows up, which makes these a heck of a lot cheaper than going and buying newsletters directly. But the one I want to show you, or the one I want to show you the most, we can definitely go into any one of these, is our typical sort of web and mobile banner experience. And the reason why is because we have premium inventory that you can't find anywhere else. And so I'm just going to walk you through the setup process really quickly. We don't have any budget, we don't have any minimum budgets for you to have to, spend something really high for this. And I'll show you why that's incredibly important and how that's very, very different than, let's say, going direct or something like that. So you can pick whatever territories you like. You can drill into cities or DMAs or whatever else you like as well. We have some best practices on that based on budget. We have some best practices on that based on the type of campaign that you're going to run. If you're going to run something for recorded music, though, definitely generally, recommend targeting the entire country rather than individual markets, because it can be just a little more difficult to focus in on an individual city when we're looking at stuff like this. So we have a couple options. In this case, I'm going to show you really quickly. Let's say rock. We built these lists for you. So you can select any one of these premium lists, but you can also edit them. Let me just zoom in a little bit. So these are the types of websites that you're going to be on if you selected the rock premium playlist. They're pretty premium websites. And for anybody that's ever tried to run a campaign on like a Paste magazine or a Billboard or something along those lines, Spin, Stereogum, Vibe, etc., you'll know that the average cost per 1,000 impressions is roughly $18, meaning you'll get your banner served 1,000 times will cost you $18. But worse than that, I mean, that's pretty bad, but it's also really difficult to actually run an ad on these websites because you generally have a minimum spend of $10,000. Now, Michael can certainly, reach out to somebody and say, hey, we just want to test 5,000. Will you give us the opportunity to run a campaign for 5,000? Because he's run 1 million campaigns in his lifetime, and he has those folks he can reach out to. But generally speaking, their minimums are 10,000, and at the least, they're about $5,000. And in this case, you can see I've only selected 500, but there's 50. You can select target premium websites, and you don't have a minimum spend. And our CPMs average under $3, meaning on average, you're going to get 6 times the amount of impressions for that same budget, whatever that budget is. Now, alternatively, we also do have what we call max clicks, and you'll see that these actually mirror the other types. The big difference is the number of domains. So the premium ones are cobbled together and really refined down into what are the most premium, rock music websites we can think of, and also that our system learns over time. But in this case, these ones are more dedicated to trying to get you the best bang for your buck in terms of a click. So if your goal is to get as much traffic as possible, you want to target fans of rock music. Well, these 360 domains, it includes these 70, but it also includes the 290 additional domains that we've identified as being trafficked by people that are interested in rock music. It may also extend out to sort of interest targeting. So it'll work a little bit more like Google AdWords and Facebook in that regard. So you can be on any of these 360 domains. You can also just reach music fans, rock music fans specifically. And then we also have additional interest targeting, which is pure interest. And so this doesn't, in this case, it's not trying to target people based on a website that they're on. Rather, it's just trying to target people that are interested in rock music. So if you ever run a Facebook ad campaign or a Google AdWords campaign, it's very similar to that in terms of how it comes up with its targeting. But I want to just set up this rock music campaign instead. Oops, or R&B, but I'm going to pick rock since that's my favorite genre. And then where do we want to send people to? So depending on the type of campaign it is, we may want to send people to one of the landing pages that I have not yet shown you, but you can create inside of Found.ee. This is an example of a Found.ee landing page. There's also the sort of custom domain versions of our Found.ee landing pages as well. And so we can send people to wherever we want to go. We can send them directly to YouTube or Spotify. If we don't know where they're going, or if we have multiple points of interest we want to send people to, we may just give them the choice. And so we'll send them directly to a Found.ee landing page in this case. Now, I'm able to either upload banners, as we looked at before. You can upload multiple banners, typical sizes, what you'd want to upload. We actually recommend no more than these sizes. There's like 49 IAB standard banner sizes or something. You definitely don't need 49 different banners, especially if you're running $500. If you're running $50,000, you want to try 49 different ad sizes, you can definitely try that. But if you're running a couple $100, we definitely recommend keeping it really simple. Just you can literally run an ad campaign with just one banner very effectively. And these first two are the most common too. But we're actually going to skip that, and instead we're going to show existing banners. And I'm going to pick one of those HTML5 ads that we just made. And in this case, there we go. We have a Spotify HTML5 ad for the band, the Accidentals, for the album Vessel. It's not the best designed ad. We can definitely work on that if we want to go through that a little bit more. But yeah, everything could actually be edited, and we're actually done. So I stopped to talk about every single input in here all the way through. But if I didn't, it would literally take about 30 seconds to set up and launch this campaign. But the cool thing about that is we've already pre-negotiated, we've already cleared the inventory. We're connected to 33 different ad exchanges. We do all the optimizations for you based on what you're selecting on the front end. You just have to tell us how much, when, where, and then the type of targeting you want to do, and then give us the creative. After that, Found.ee does the rest for you. It will try to get you the best possible. In this case, we selected a premium ad campaign, premium ad targeting with an HTML5 ad. So this is going to try and optimize for websites within that list of 70 premium rock websites and get you as many impressions as possible for every dollar spent effectively. And again, our average CPM is actually $2.89, and that is across tens of thousands of advertising campaigns. And it is across, the likes of like a Sylvan Esso and, bands like Common and stuff like that. But it's also across, tens of thousands of self-serve artists as well that don't have, labels necessarily behind them running the ads for them. The system actually does it all for you. And so that would actually be it. If I click publish, we would launch this ad campaign and we would be done there.
Then while you're in here, we had a quick question about, can you run a campaign with multiple banner sizes in there? And kind of an addendum to that, would you suggest that they do so to increase the likelihood that they get placed on different sites? Sites have different, available slots for banners and stuff, right? Do you increase your likelihood of getting picked up by having 5-6 different options in there?
Yeah, exactly. So we these are the 6 different sizes we actually recommend: the 300 by 250, 728 by 90, 120 by 600, and so on. These are all based on Michael, exactly what you're saying. Essentially the inventory availability and also just performance. These are the ones that tend to get great placements and tend to get better click-through rates. You can also, of course, upload many dozens of other sizes. We just don't really recommend them. I don't have a bunch of ads from the same artist, but let me just upload a couple from a few different artists. There we go. So very quickly, you can just drag them all in, or you can select them one at a time and upload them. And the way the system will work is, let's say it's all for St. Vincent's Mass Seduction album, and we have a 300 by 250 and a 728 by 90 and a 120 by 600 and so on. Depending on the rest of your targeting, the system will actually do multivariate testing for you. It's going to deliver these in little spurts, and it's going to try to figure out which one is getting the most engagement across the different targeting that you've selected, essentially. And then throughout the day, it's going to spend more impressions generally on the one that's performing better based on your settings. We don't actually have a sort of local maxima that you might find on Facebook. So whatever happens today, it might be different tomorrow. There are literally trends based on the day of the week, time of day, seasonality, et cetera. So the system will constantly do the multivariate testing. So today, Wednesday, maybe 300 by 250 prevails and you're getting more impressions there and better click-through rate there. Maybe tomorrow the 728 starts to prevail. Our system doesn't want to learn from yesterday and exclusively end there. it'll learn from yesterday. It'll take those heuristics into tomorrow, and then it'll continue the multivariate testing again. So you never really reach that local maxima, which is great. Now, if it's not just different sizes, but let's say there's a whole bunch of 300 by 250s, it's doing the same thing. It's trying to do a multivariate test essentially based on whatever element you've chosen, whichever variable you've chosen to test against. Maybe it's just the call to action, the out now language versus stream now versus buy now versus whatever else. And the system will help you find which creative is actually the best.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it helped us when we're running advertising campaigns not have to do that manually all the time. So we decided to make it something everybody else can use as well. So this is the advertising reporting. I keep jumping around like everyone's seen this. So let me just go back. From the navigation on the left-hand side, don't forget it collapses, but you can just mouse over and it pops back up. I'm gonna go to the advertising reporting and I'm gonna click on that here. Quick view of our customer service account. So don't mind too many of these. I'm just do a quick filter because I want to find some of these campaigns for you. There we go. Tim test prospecting. So in this case, it looks like Tim ran a premium advertising campaign from October 18th through the 22nd, $50. Ended up getting 17,000 impressions for $50. 0.53% click-through rate. Now, the average click-through rate on a banner ad campaign, what you would consider a good, successful banner ad campaign, 0.2 to 0.25%. In this case, this one's doing really well, has a 0.53% click-through rate. And especially so for premium. Premium advertising campaigns, we actually don't even generally measure in cost per click because you use premium generally to build your brand, to make sure people that are interested in your type of music are able to see your, are able to get to know your brand and you can build brand recall. And we actually have some interesting case studies and articles around how to build a brand and how to build brand recall. But in this case, this one actually has an incredible click-through rate and CPC for a premium advertising campaign. And just to show you really quickly, that's a $2.92 cost per 1,000 impressions. As I mentioned earlier, to get on these kinds of websites, normally you have to have a $10,000 minimum commitment, and you're looking at an $18 blended CPM. In this case, Tim's campaign would get 6 times or more the amount of impressions compared to going directly to any of these premium websites, essentially.
And I've also quick on this one. Is this sort of, forgive me if you already referenced this before, but is this also driven by actual effectiveness, right? Like, are we serving to spin more often now because we're seeing the impressions going up, or how does it determine sort of how heavy the spin and Rolling Stone side of things are here out of these top 10? Yeah,
so we gave it a pretty finite window and a very limited budget. And so it takes really kind of all things into consideration. And it's like, okay, I have, 4 or 5 days to try and get the most impressions possible in an environment that normally costs 6 times as much. And so the system can be really aggressive at finding its ways into these websites. And in this case, it looks like what was happening is Spin was delivering a really good CPM on premium websites. And so it continued to sort of double and triple down into it. The premium advertising, it's not designed for optimized cost per click. And so that's why you'll see Rolling Stone was actually doing better in terms of click-through rates and stuff. And so likely had a lower cost per click, but it is possible these were a little higher CPM and the cost per click was only lower because of the click-through rate, essentially. But with a premium advertising campaign on Found.ee, the goal is visibility on premium websites. And so in this case, Spin, Rolling Stone, Genius, Billboard, these are the places where Found.ee was able to really get a foot in the door, get your banner directly on the website, and do it consistently as possible. And a lot of things will impact that. Maybe Mountain Dew one day just suddenly decides to run $1 million, spin campaign, and then that might start to fall down the list of the top 10, and Rolling Stone will make its way up. But Found.ee is constantly bidding and sort of pre-bidding to figure out okay, can I get an impression in here for a low CPM? Great, let's turn on the gas. But yeah, this is it's a pretty small budget, and so it makes the system work harder with a smaller budget generally. Most people that run on these websites, they're picking just spin, not spin, Rolling Stone, Genius, Billboard all at once, and they're picking just spin with $10,000. And so Found.ee, it has to be really, really smart, really, really effective at like getting its foot in the door, and doubling, tripling down inside there. This campaign is another one. Looks like spin that week was doing really well, and in this case, it delivered a heck of a lot more impressions than the rest of them. The CPM is also still good in this case, $3.15. Honestly, if you're getting under $18, it's great, because alternatively, you got to go direct. You're definitely paying $18, and you have to have $10,000 to run an ad campaign. But on Found.ee, we like to measure, like, is it getting under a it's not a premium campaign? Is it getting under a $7 CPM? This is one of my tests. This one didn't get under $7 CPM, so not one of the best examples. Can happen, but for the most part, these campaigns, $2.89 per 1,000 impressions, which is phenomenal. That's remarketing. Yeah. Oh, maybe we should talk about remarketing a little bit.
Sure.
So Found.ee was originally built to help music companies build remarketing audiences from link clicks, whether it's an individual click through a Spotify link on a landing page, or oftentimes people are sharing these links on Twitter, on Facebook, on places like that. The links themselves actually fire remarketing pixels, and I had a different example of how to use that sort of thing as well. A lot of artists will take the links and then they put them into their like YouTube descriptions, for instance. These can be direct links. These can be links that take you, well, in this case, looks like that one goes to another YouTube video. And this one goes to a landing page. So all of the link clicks, all the engagements, they help people build out remarketing audiences. And Found.ee will help you capture those remarketing audiences under what we call remarketing audiences in the navigation. And the whole point of this is so that you can keep track of the people that are engaging, the fans that are engaging based on what they are actually engaging. So are they engaging Spotify? Are they engaging Apple Music? And et cetera. And then if you want to run an ad campaign, it's really simple. You can target the people who have engaged you based on those landing pages and link clicks just by clicking the reach button. And it's the same process. So it's just 5 or 6 fields that you have to fill out essentially. In this case, the one that's already filled out is I want to target the people that have visited Spotify. But yeah, so the rest of it works exactly the same. You put the URL in, you add the creatives, you click publish, and the system will continue to do its optimizations for you as well, which is I think a really great way of staying efficient. So you can focus on being an artist instead.
Yeah, this is really powerful too, in conjunction with our HTML5 ads. So let's say you want to get your album in front of your fans that listen on Spotify. You create your player with the Spotify widget, advertise to those fans, do the same thing with Apple Music, do the same thing with YouTube, and you're actually reaching your fans with what they're interested in on the websites they're already browsing. So highly suggest using these audiences once you start to build them.
Absolutely. And not to go too much into the rest of the stuff, but link shorteners on the homepage, that's how you help build out your remarketing audience. By sharing links, you can create these. Michael, do you think we have time to look at the landing page, or should we?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do that. Before we leave this really quickly, did anybody have any questions they want to throw in the chat on what we've seen so far? Got one that says, is CPM directly correlated to genre targeting?
No, not. I think our averages that we talk about, the $2.89, that's blended. In terms of a best practice, though, we definitely recommend not changing. You can edit your setup. Let me show you really quickly again. So if I'm picking, let's say, Americana, we recommend not changing these because that will actually impact your CPM sometimes. If you take a list of 70, reduce it down to 10, it's going to make it much harder for Found.ee to bid and get on those 10. One of the great things about having 70 or 30 or however many in one of these lists for the genre is that if in this hour spin costs way too much, it's going to start focusing on Rolling Stone and Billboard and everything else, and then try spin again an hour later. So the more websites you have in there, the better. But in terms of genre, I can't think of one that has any specific, sort of like correlatory CPM increases or decreases, except maybe jazz, actually. Great question. Jazz is hard. There are not a lot of jazz premium websites. There's like 6, like literally like 6. And there's a bunch of others that, you can target jazz fans, but when you're targeting 6 websites, it makes it really difficult to get the best possible CPM. Now we see it. We actually, Michael, you have someone on your team that's just run a jazz campaign. I think the CPM was like $3.15 all the way through it. But yeah, that one is probably one of the harder ones because of the limited inventory.
Yeah, as a numbers person and being in operations, I'd love to test these things out. So I actually did some studies last year around genre and correlating CPM to genre, and there's no significant difference between any of our genre options in CPM. So sometimes time of year, day of the week, it might vary a little bit, but overall, when you're looking at the big picture, it's pretty steady across.
Quickly, while you're in here as well, can you just point out, some of these things for folks that haven't done these processes before, haven't worked in a dashboard like this before, it can feel a little bit overwhelming. I'm assuming y'all have really good, best practices guides in here and support links and that kind of stuff as well for questions folks have while they're trying to build this out. I think like anything else, like your Facebook probably was when you first started it and your, Instagram, it takes practice. It takes just being aware of how to do it the right way, right? So where are these folks finding kind of their best advice on setting these things up the right way the first time?
Absolutely. So yes, we skipped it because we're using test accounts and customer service accounts. But when you first create your account from Symphonic, you're going to be taken into a Found.ee page, which actually starts with a big modal that gives you it says welcome, to everybody coming over from Symphonic, and it'll be the right place to really jump in and start learning. There's also a walkthrough. It'll actually walk you through each of these steps. And we highly recommend you follow through with those, but you can always just come down here to the help section as well if you skip any of that. And we have a ton of case studies and articles and how-to guides and stuff like that. But as you navigate through, you'll notice like when you're coming into, let's say, trying to think of one that would trigger. Well, yeah, I mean, even design playable banners actually. So if I was loading this for the very first time, there'd be a little welcome message and it would walk me through all the different steps. So yeah, if you skip it and you want to get back to it, you go to the help section on the bottom left, or alternatively, you'll find these on just about every page. Watch a video, how to get started.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so just to repeat, when you're clicking through this from your Symphonic MS account, setting these things up is free with your user account that gets set up originally. And endorse it. You'll see Andrew commented in here over here. Andrew's the fellow in our team that builds and maintains all of our digital advertising campaigns that we're running for clients that are paying us to do so. And we are now using this tool as the display portion of all campaigns that we're running. We're doing social advertising and in-platform advertising as well. But for the display portion, we're running it through Found.ee, and I think we've already found some real wins here. Just wanted to make sure that was clear. If you get in here and it does seem overwhelming and you do want to run a campaign through us instead, there's places to apply for our advertising services on symphonic.com as well. And we run a portion of it through here. So an endorsement from our side for sure. Let's go ahead and take the rest of the time to talk about the other stuff that's in here. Jason, if you want to show the other Found.ee tools.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm clicking on landing pages from the navigation, and what you'll see when you first set this up is actually these are all free pages. In fact, just about everything I showed you so far, creating links, building your remarketing audiences, creating your HTML5 ads, that is all part of the free account. And so is creating any of these landing pages. There are just some upgrades that we have on top of that. For instance, to create a social unlock landing page is different than the rest of these landing pages. And the social unlock comes with a couple of different premium options for upgrade. But let me show you really quickly a music release page. So it's sort of a WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get on the left-hand side. Our default is the sort of single column, but you also have 2 column styles like this. And so you just manage that here. And we can create the landing page either manually, come in and type everything out, or we can, I wish I had a UPC that works. Let me see if 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is a UPC that works. But if you have a UPC, an EAN, an ISRC, or even an Apple URL, you can actually auto-generate a landing page from the results that we're pulling down directly from the retailers. So you'd use this one if, hey, cool. Of course it is craft work. And this is probably not the best example because it is a weird one. But in this case, we're able to find 5 different links for this: Amazon, Beatport, YouTube Music. And in a lot of instances, we're actually finding Apple Music, Spotify, Deezer, Tidal, all kinds of different links by default. And all you have to do is punch in a UPC and you're actually done. If you have your UPC. But again, yeah, everything here is actually editable. You can swap out the album art for a YouTube widget, or you can upload your own album art if you have something different. Yeah, there we go. But yeah, as you can see, you can also use animated GIFs as a background. You can use an animated GIF as a foreground image. You can even use animated GIFs in the custom logo icons for your links and your buttons. But one of the really cool things, you can actually also add in additional widgets below. So in this case, for this Korn album, they've installed their Shopify widget. For those of you who haven't seen the news, I'm sure most of you have, Spotify and Shopify are now doing a direct connection as well. Well, Found.ee has allowed Shopify for the longest time, and it is a very smooth process. And for some of our clients, this is actually the #1 source of e-commerce transactions. So if you have a store on Shopify, highly recommend you make use of this. Just wanted to show you complete version since I don't have all the widgets ready for me.
Hey, while you're there, Jason, let me jump in. There's a question, and I think this is a good time to point this out. Nathan asked about, if you want to focus on making money off of your advertising spend, so basically spend X and see return on investment of X. I think that's a good point to show that obviously where you're driving traffic to, these landing pages that have the merch opportunities built into them is really is showing obviously like a much more frictionless opportunity to actually make that purchasing decision.
Yeah.
So it's a great way to do that. One thing I would also throw out as a caveat to that, Nathan, is that in today's marketing world, you mentioned it, the old school advertising is supposed to do. You also have to remember that I think like the current day ratio is like a 10 to 12 touch points before people make a buying decision. So you have to think about your overall marketing strategy in a funnel concept. So you're not going to run, one ad campaign on build that hits our premium domains and expect to convert somebody to a buyer. But that's where, when Jason talks about this recall, the value of the HTML5 ads, for example, is that people that live on these websites and go and read these articles, if your Spotify banner ad pops up and they're logged into Spotify and they can play that track or that playlist while they're still reading whatever article they're reading, they're much more likely to stay in tune. And then again, going back to the remarketing component, if they click those links or they're utilizing clicking through to any of your landing pages, that's where the remarketing efforts come in. So think about your advertising strategy and your organic strategy as one and the same. And you need to be touching these people in multiple steps because they're not going to see something one time and then likely make a buying decision. I know I don't, and I know I've been running ads for various folks for many years now. And you really think about like reaching people that are new potential fans then
Yeah.
reaching them again at multiple touch points along that kind of fan journey before they actually make a buying decision. So
Yeah, that's super important. I thought that was a really excellent question as well, because it can be really easy to kind of fall into this trap where you're like, okay, I ran an ad on Spotify, spent $50. I didn't see $50 increase in my streaming revenue this month. The ad didn't work. And that actually, it might not be true. We've had some really cool case studies and folks using this system where they might start out and they're like, I'm just going to drive people to Spotify. And suddenly they see their YouTube content ID numbers spike. They're earning a whole bunch of more money on YouTube than they did before. And so they look and they're noticing that because they put in a YouTube player in their HTML5 ad, people are actually going to YouTube. They're using their music. They are migrating to Spotify after being on YouTube. So really looking at that whole kind of funnel holistically, like where are people going first? What are they doing? Are there revenue streams that you can take advantage of that you might not have thought before? So Content ID is a great one. Sending people to your landing page with a merch store, things like that. Super, super important.
Yeah, and Rebecca, I think you're even referencing a very specific case as well. But we have case studies on the website. You can see how other people have done exactly what you're looking for. This is an older case study of people using Spotify audio ads. We actually recommend the widgets more these days than anything else. But I would say the common denominator for anybody that's using advertising, to actually build, to grow, to create a business out of their artistry is they're trying. They're trying. They're learning. They're iterating. Rebecca, what was the recent one with the YouTube indie label that was trying?
Yeah, totally. So we had an indie label. The example I referenced earlier, folks just starting out like, hey, let's drive some people to Spotify. We'll test this out. And as they were running these campaigns, they noticed that pickup on YouTube, and their YouTube content ID went up by 1,000 times. And they found some really cool ways to track that info. So I would say, as you're advertising, tracking through your channels, looking for all those spikes, looking for places where folks are. So this particular label, they started seeing this increase. They knew, okay, I am advertising through this platform. I am reaching out to the worldwide, a whole bunch of countries. So I'm seeing a pickup in UK on YouTube. I want to see if that picks up anywhere else. And so looking at your Spotify analytics, for example, are you seeing an increase in listeners from the UK? Are you seeing an increase in a referral source from YouTube? All those different types of data points where they were looking really helps them get a view of how their listeners are engaging with their music. And that's kind of what this is all about. So they started out with pretty small budget. They were running $25 ad campaigns. As they continued, they're adding $25 more per campaign. So maybe they're running $75 campaigns now, but as they're learning, they can increase that budget because they know how this is going to work and how they're going to see this revenue come in.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive stuff, and that's not unlike other indie labels, same size and larger. It's not unlike some really successful artists that use the platform directly. It just comes down to we can give you the tools. We can auto optimize for you, which is fantastic. And there's a lot of how-to articles, case studies you can reference. And then after that, just got to try and keep trying, learning from what you've done the previous time and keep going. YouTube is one of the really awesome ones in terms of being able to track the sort of pickup because of YouTube Insights. They're much more linear than a lot of other streaming platforms are. And you can actually follow through and see where the traffic is actually generated from a Found.ee HTML5 ad and then what they do next. And by the way, our average watch time for a YouTube video ad, like one of these guys, is 54 seconds. for a sort of self-serve, burgeoning artist, let's say. It's more like 1:20 when it's common or something like that. But 54 seconds, put that into context for anybody on the call. There's a recent article that says that YouTube video ads are watched under 15 seconds on average, and many people click out after 5 seconds. And the equivalent on Facebook, a Facebook video view ad, is 84% of those are watched for only under 3 seconds with the sound off. So I don't know about you, but if I'm trying to grow my brand, if I'm trying to actually create a fan, I'd rather have somebody pay attention with the sound on for 54 seconds on average than under 3 seconds sound off. And so, yeah, these are the ways you do it. You use the right platform, and then you test. You test and you try, and you test and you try. But there you'll find some really good case studies in here and some really good references as well.
Yeah, I would add real quick, Jason, to Nathan had a follow-up comment, saying that his label, has 20 sub-labels. They've run ads for years, over 20 years, and it's hard to figure out if anything actually works. So, a suggestion, first, let me preface the suggestion with, unfortunately, in the world of music, especially in this digital age, it's hard to quantify a direct correlation sometimes to your advertising dollars directly to like an ROI, or in this case, a return on ad spend. So a ROAS. But the way that maybe you could approach it is, if you have new releases every week and maybe one of those sub labels, you create a playlist off of all of those label releases. And then your ad campaign is that Spotify HTML playlist that's being published in, or being placed on these premium domains. And yeah, you're not necessarily seeing a direct correlation to merch or album sales from that ad, but at least what you're doing is helping grow those numbers, whether it's sending them to your YouTube channel that rolls out all these new releases, or if it's directly to that Spotify playlist. At least it's a way that's spreading those bucks out across multiple releases as opposed to just one. And maybe then at least it doesn't feel like you're just throwing money at the wind there. You're actually seeing some increase on your playlist, spins on those playlists. So I don't know if that's super helpful, if that all, makes sense for your specific scenario. But again, to Jason's point, there are many ways to try different scenarios, and you just have to be willing sometimes to test and learn, and then, be agile in today's digital marketplace, Yeah.
I mean, I'll just throw in, I think that's one of the things that seems so compelling about this platform, is that it does optimize for you, right? And that is that you're going to learn how to run it better next time. You're going to learn where the audience you're after is actually activated, right? Super neat that way. Forgive my use of the word neat. This is great. I didn't want to cut you off, Rebecca, if there was something else you were going to add.
Oh, I was just going to second that with personal experience with making playlists for a company before my time at Found.ee. And one thing that I did exactly what Taylor said. And I could see how quickly the followers were growing versus just kind of an organic search. And then as your followers increase, of course, you're going to be prioritized more in Spotify search results or wherever you're directing people. So you should see that stuff grow, and all kind of together instead of having to do each sub-label individually.
And and we talk about this a lot with things like releasing several singles before you get to album, and releasing marketing drivers that are compelling about every single one of those pieces of music before you get to the large content piece you're going to drop. Running a campaign like this that's growing your followership, growing the awareness of these releases, growing the pre-saves, getting an audience that you can then use this remarketing tool to hit when the album is there, is what it's all about, right? Taking those steps to get to album release day with an audience that's already ready for the album to drop.
Yeah, I would say so. It's the same approach we've taken for so long as well. And and Found.ee is designed to be used at every single step of that. Whether you're creating a pre-save page like I've been doing. I don't have any real information to put in here, so I'm going to put fake stuff. But at the very beginning of launching even your first album, you can start building those audiences by creating a pre-save page. It doesn't have to have a music video in here. It could be if you haven't released anything as of yet, it could just be image, artwork, or something like that. But yeah, this gives you an opportunity to start generating pre-saves, capturing emails, and building out your remarketing audience immediately. And by the way, one really interesting thing about Found.ee is we've developed a way to do Spotify singles in a pre-save album, which of course is not really how they actually function. But the way this works is if you know what your single is going to be called, and you know when it's going to be released, my singles names, then you can actually build one single pre-save page that when the fan pre-saves on Spotify, they're going to actually pre-save your singles that are leading up to the album and the album as well. So this is, to Michael's point, build that momentum over time with every single release, with every single asset along the way. Found.ee is literally there for every single part of this. Every single part. Sounds like a good name for a single. And then, yeah, so you can build these out, you can share these, you can start to capture your emails, start to build out pre-saves, and also build out your marketing audiences simultaneously. I won't spend too much time on this because I know we have like 5 minutes, but building these pre-save pages is also a free tool with Found.ee. And it's one of the most commonly used tools within Found.ee. The engagements help you build out your remarketing audience, and you can use it again at every single step of your marketing funnel, essentially. There are a couple of things in here that are paid upgrades, which may not be things that you even really need to use. It's kind of intended for folks that might be on a larger record label, but you can actually change the experience of your landing page based on the territory. So the exact same URL that you share to the world, if we see it here in the United States, it looks like this. But if you need to say, okay, people in Australia, they see something different, then you can create that experience as well. So that's one of those items that are a paid upgrade, but everything else that we just saw is actually totally free. Without
Real quick on that note too, going back to the advertising and the targeting and the pages that you get the visibility on, we do have a large portion of our roster that releases music, Latin American music, and so there was some questions in the comments through stream about targeting specifically the LATAM audience.
Oh, okay.
It is most of what we see here for the display network, US-based sites. Certainly the language can change, right? Or the where you're delivering it in terms of your targeting can change, but is there the option to kind of focus your attention ex-US or to a certain listening audience?
Yeah, absolutely. So, depending on where we're talking about, you might want to set up campaigns for Spanish-speaking countries outside of setting up campaigns for Portuguese-speaking countries, for instance. We have some domains in here that are already added in because they are for LATAM and for different territories in LATAM. That said, this might be the kind of thing where you would actually want to come through and say, okay, let me get back into rock. Probably not MTV, maybe not, Billboard, Pitchfork. Like this would be the right reason, I think, to add in domains. And as you can see, we do actually have domains in different territories that are considered premium in different territories, including Brazil in this case. The thing to keep in mind is the website, the ads are only going to show where you have selected targeting. And so, if you've selected Billboard and Rolling Stone and you did rollingstone.com, not rollingstone.com.br or something along those lines, and you see impressions, it's because people in Brazil are on rollingstone.com. There are English speakers, there are people that will visit, the premium, American focused websites and stuff like that in different territories. But yeah, if you really want to pare down and just focus exclusively on Brazilian websites, you can absolutely do that.
Yeah, we do have a number of releases, certainly in the Brazil marketplace. Also, some African releases. We've got, releases all over the world. Be interesting in your account to be able to kind of set up that pre-targeting as well. So you know that each time you're building, you're not having to select the same set of geolocations, right? That you're always going to African market, you're always going to Latam market, if that's possible.
Yeah, so the campaigns are designed to set them up individually each time, but it's fairly quick to type in the territories. However, I think especially for you, if you have feedback like that, we'll definitely take it and we'll get it into our roadmap because that sounds like a really good idea.
I'll tell you out loud, guys, anyone that's paying attention, that's one of the things that I've loved most about working with Jason and this team is that they are open to a feedback like that. And, sometimes it's an arduous rebuild kind of thing, but if it's something that's easy to integrate, they really do go about trying to figure out how to perfect the solution for those kind of questions. So I know we only have a couple minutes left and I apologize for cutting things short. This is going to go up on the Symphonic YouTube. It'll be up on our socials as well. It'll be archived there. If you have questions that you didn't get to, please feel free to throw those questions in the comments of the YouTube. We will make sure that the team at Found.ee finds them and can get back to you. We also have access to you here, and so we'll try to get those answers out to you if we don't get them into the YouTube. But thank you all so much for your time today. I think we could probably do 9 or 10 of these and still have more stuff to talk about. But the key takeaway from this is get into your Symphonic MS, click through, make sure you've set up your Found.ee account. There's so much that you can do. It will be an ever growing amount of things that you can do here with us at Symphonic and Found.ee. And let us know if you've got additional questions. Thanks so much, team.
Thank you guys so much for having us. And good to see you as well, Andrew, in the background. And Logan, thanks again for all this as well. So thanks, Michael.
All right, y'all.
Thank you so much.
Take care, everyone.
Again soon.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.